Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to show you a pretty easy strategy with how I dealt with the Viper boss in the first Berserker Khazan. So this does have a little bit of a cheese to it, but it'll basically get you through the entire first phase with taking little to no damage, and that'll allow you to go into that final phase with full health and everything, which can make that final part of the fight significantly easier. So I'll go through first the build and the skills and everything that I used with a few additional callouts, and then I'll get into the actual strategy. Alright, so starting off with my skills, this is going to be using the dual blade weapon type, and there's some pretty important upgrades that make this all work, so we'll go through all this first if you want to replicate this. I don't have anything upgraded under swift attack, and then moving over to potent blow, I've got a few things here. I've got massive blow to do follow-up attacks after doing a charged attack, and then I also have gale to enhance those charged attacks with injury infliction. Next, under Frenzy, this is probably where the most important skills I use are located. First is Outrage. This will give you the ability to do a potent sprinting attack, and we want to use the charged version of that. And then kind of to enhance that further, we've got Wind Chaser for a second follow-up sprint attack, as well as below that, Wind Chaser Swift to turn those follow-up attacks into a potent blow. And then finally, I've got Ruthless as my spirit ability fully upgraded. There's going to be a few opportunities during the fight where we can utilize that to put out quite a bit of damage. Under Penetrate, I've got a few extra points I used, one for fleet-footed just to reduce stamina on dodges, and then another on Disciplined Action to increase dodge invincibility duration. And then lastly, under Guard, I've got 1 point for blowback, and then 3 points to fully upgrade Ironclad to reduce stamina from guarding. Under the Common tab, I've got a few additional points, primarily focused on Spirit generation. Enduring Spirit for gaining on damage taken, Berserk Spirit for gaining when attacking, and Indomitable Spirit for gaining on Brink Guards. And then I also have a point for Brutal Attack Spirit, which gains Spirit when doing brutal attacks from behind. And then here's a look at all of my stats as well, if you're interested. In terms of attributes, I'm primarily focused on Willpower, as that is what scales damage on the dual blade weapon type. And then finally, here's my gear. I'm using the Soul Cleaver as well as a few other pieces from the Soul Eater set that you get after defeating Keshta the Unyielding. I also have him equipped, as you can see in the top right corner, as my Phantom ability. This can all be acquired from doing the bonus fight after you're defeating the Blade Phantom. So if you haven't done that yet, it may be worth going back and doing it. I do have a video of where that's located if you don't know, and we'll leave a link for that in the description. Alright, so now getting into the fight, this should hopefully make this a whole lot easier if you've been struggling to get through this, but as mentioned, there's a little bit of a cheese to this strategy that I figured out that got me through pretty much the entire first phase without taking any damage, and it all essentially relies on that sprinting attack I just did there, and that's pretty much what you're going to do for the entire first phase. So it's a combination of that sprinting attack from the Outrage skill with the follow-up potent blow that you can do from the Wind Chaser Swift skill. So in between these combos, just keep your distance and constantly back away from him, and you can pretty easily avoid any of his attacks. Here you can see I'm basically just repeating that sequence over and over when I see an opening. And again, make sure you're doing the charged version of that sprint attack, but by this point you can see I've already exhausted him opening up for a brutal attack. So I go around behind to do some additional damage there, and then immediately follow up with that Ruthless Spirit attack as he'll be stunned for a little bit, allowing you to put out a lot of damage really quickly. If you noticed, I also snuck in a charged potent attack at the end there as well. So if you do have some stamina, you can get in quite a few hits at the end of that brutal attack to take advantage of that. But after that, he'll do this tornado move kind of thing. So again, back away, keep your distance. And at this point, really, it's just more of the same, doing that same sequence to finish out the fight. So again, just kind of keep your distance, be patient, avoid attacks, and then when you see opportunities, sprint in and do that sprinting attack combo. And his fortitude should be fairly low at the last part of this, so you should be able to get in one more brutal attack to end this phase and go into the final phase of the fight. All right, so now going into the first part of this final phase. Nothing too fancy here, honestly. I kind of just relied on the same strategy of using those sprinting attacks quite a bit, although they don't work quite as well in this phase. So I just kind of use those and just kind of an improv of other attacks as well. But that being said, you should be in pretty good shape, though, if everything went right in the first phase, where you'll have close to full health and all of your heals still available to just kind of brute force it and take on any damage that he deals out, and you can heal up. Really though, kind of similar to the first phase, if you just keep your distance and be patient with this guy, focus on guarding, he will give you a lot of openings to attack where he'll kind of stand still for a second after an attack and things like that, where you can run in, do a couple big hits until you can deplete his fortitude to do a brutal attack. So again, just kind of take your time. You've got heals and things like that. Look for opportunities to do damage until we get to the next phase. So eventually you'll get to this point where everything goes dark, and honestly this was the first time I had gotten to this part, so I didn't know what the hell was going on, but he'll kind of throw a bunch of wild attacks at you, so just kind of go into defensive mode and don't worry so much about attacking during this part. Eventually the lights will come back on and you can finish the fight. This is where those extra heals really came in handy for me, but as you see as I kind of finish up this fight, he does give you a few good opportunities to utilize that Ruthless Spirit skill attack, which does a really good job taking out most of his remaining health and completes the fight. Alright, so that is the Viper boss in the first Berserker Khazan. Hopefully, if you're having some struggles with this fight, this strategy helps you out and can get you through it. But I'll leave you with that. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.